Uh, Hi, welcome all for the second session. I guess you guys would have had a wonderful session for the first session opened by Mr. Ghazal. And now we have Mr. Ayman Al Issa. He's the industrial cybersecurity lead and senior expert with McKinsey and Company. Welcome you on board, sir. Thank you for joining. Uh, j- yes, just to give you a brief introduction regarding Mr. Ayman. Mr. Ayman he was the chief technologist for Booz Allen Hamilton Industrial Practice, and then he has a couple of cybersecurity business development lead experience with them over a career which spans over 27 years to date. Mr. Alissa has gained vast experience in the fields of industrial automation, operational technology, information technology, and cybersecurity as well. Within these arenas, he counts industrial cybersecurity and systems engineer, as well as cybersecurity strategy and model building amongst his area of expertise. Illustrating his contribution to the latter, Mr. Alissa is a globally recognized expert in industrial cybersecurity who had early contributions to improving the practice on a worldwide level. Furthermore, contributing to the wider industrial cybersecurity debate, Mr. Alisa is currently the co-chairman of Working Group 1 in the IEC 62443, formerly ISA 99, Industrial Automation and Cybersecurity Control Systems Standard. He is the CTO advisor of Industrial Cybersecurity Center in the Middle East, and he is a member of the cybersecurity advisory boards at top-rated universities worldwide. He is also an active member of numerous international security innovation alliances focused on improving the security of industrial systems. And that was quite a bio from Mr. Ayman. And today's session, Mr. Ayman would be focusing on the topic, the approach to designing a secure reference architecture to support the integration between the plant and business flow. I hand over the session now to Mr. Ayman to take over, and we'll have further more details regarding how we would like to take the session up.
Thank you, Rinaldo, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you today. And thank you for the long introduction. I did not expect you to introduce me this long. So great again to be with you today. And today, as Rinaldo mentioned, we are going to talk about designing secure architecture and how can this architecture enable those who are working in different industrial infrastructures, supporting or operating those infrastructures. Now, so today we will be covering during the next almost 90 minutes those three areas. And I'll start first by understanding design principles and what are the best practices. And we will cover it in more details. And then I'll move to understanding design analytics. And some of you might say, why I use the word even analytics over here, because in reality, cybersecurity architectures should be data-driven and built by data that we need to get and information that we need to get from business, so that we make sure that the security architecture at the end is an enabler for our business, besides to being there to secure the organization and to secure the infrastructure itself. And then we will go into a conclusion. If we have some time, I'm going to give an example of how you build a secure architecture, and we can have a discussion around this. I want to have this session as an interactive session, so you can stop me, you can ask, or you can have questions actually in the send it as a message or in the chat actually function, and let us have it as interactive one, rather than I just cover the discussion by myself. So Rinaldo, how is the chat enabled now? because I tried to see if I can have chat. No, it's okay. So chat is enabled. I'll be glad to answer any question right now.
Yes. So you could
That's
see
that.
there's an option, sir. We have panelists and attendees. So anyone from the attendees would respond. You could see the chat, and or if just in case they send a personal message, I'll forward those details to you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. So let me continue, and I'll start by understanding design principles and best practices. But before going there, let's go to Galtour. Galtour, if you happen to visit Australia, it's a nice place in the Alps area of Australia, and it is an area that people used to go during summer to see the beautiful greenish of this place, and mostly it was used like we used to see people going for skiing, but not in COVID time, at this time where we see less travel. And people like to go there for skiing and enjoy those mountains and enjoy skiing over there. But what's important to understand is that this region, like most of the populated regions of the Alps, was a hazard zone according to the perceived risk into 3 zones. One of them is the red zone, and the other one is the yellow zone, and the third one is the green zone. Now, for red zone, people are not allowed to build buildings. It's considered to be a risky area to have any house built over there. However, for the yellow zone, okay, it poses a moderate risk to avalanches. Okay, so development is allowed, but structures must be reinforced to resist avalanches. While when we talk about the green zone, it was considered as avalanche safe, and it was declared that this is avalanche safe. Okay, so development is permitted with no reinforcement requirements to protect from avalanches, and based on this, you will see that there are so many houses that are in the green area and very much less houses in the yellow area, but no any house in the red area. However, on 23rd of February in 1999, the village was hit by a major avalanche at a speed of almost 50 meters, with at speed of around 290 kilometers, with a height of around 50 meters of avalanche that hit the city. But what's very important to realize is that around 40 people were dead, or 50, even actually they say that 57 people were buried actually under this avalanche, and many of them were in the green zone. Many of those were living in the green zone, and it ended up with a tragic situation where lots of rescue groups came from even the countries around to help support the people over there. And why did I start the discussion with this example? Just to say that we need to build security zones. We need to build, for example, when we talk about snow avalanche zones. However, what we need to expect is that those security zones and those avalanche zones could fail at some time. So we should be prepared for the worst always, and especially in the world of cyber, because you have previously we used to talk about actors who are more to normal actors. Today we talk about even country and nation-driven cyber attacks and attacks that are very, very much sophisticated than before. So again, what we need to realize is that we need cybersecurity, we need those zones, we need everything, but we need to expect that something is going to happen, and we need to have compensation and alternative alternative measures to make sure that we are able to resist to this situation. And for example, having rescue teams around, having rescue plans and expectation that something wrong could happen, and this what could lead to preparation. And in cybersecurity, we talk about attacks that could happen and how prepared you are from incident response perspective, how good we could look. Now, what's the other important factor that we need to remember is that we are living in a digitalized kind of life. And today, even in the time of COVID, we have seen that we need to be much more digitalized than before. When we talk about plants, we hear about plants that had to shut down lines of its business because they could not do the regular maintenance that they should have done in order to protect, in order to make sure that those systems work properly. There are companies that are affected by even their operations, where they are not able to get the people into their sites. We used to get support from different companies. We used to have people travel from different countries to support different types of operations. However, with the COVID situation today, this becomes more sophisticated, and it's not easy to have people travel. So we have seen increase actually dependency on digitalization, and tendency of companies to move into digitalized companies, including those that are operating critical infrastructures like oil and gas, utilities, manufacturing, chemicals, and different infrastructures. Now, what you see, what's the common systems that you could see is that today people are moving more to the cloud, and they started to realize that we have to utilize the clouds, and we need to think about this from business perspective. And when we look at cybersecurity issues, then it's the responsibility of cybersecurity people to make sure that they enable their organizations to move to the cloud in a secure way. You will see that there is move into like big data. There is lots of Internet of Things devices. There's lots of now what they call them industrial Internet of Things, and here many industrial organizations started to utilize those devices that are actually they are in reality smart field devices. However, what makes them a bit different is that we started to see development of platforms that enable the management of those industrial Internet of Things devices, and give the organizations information that enable them to improve their operations, to improve their maintenance, to improve how they operate the plant. And all of these technologies are good to adopt, and we cannot avoid or say that that we don't want to be digitalized, or we don't want to utilize advanced analytics and for the plant data, for example. all of these things are important to consider. And this is actually what you see is a full report that you can access on the link that is on the source below, okay, for more information. So given all of this, when any security architecture team starts to analyze, like to say, what do I need today? What do where shall I focus my efforts on? Okay, and you will see normally that that most of the security architects think about how can we secure the environment, how we can implement defense in the security, how we can reduce the residual risk. And all of those are very valid areas and very valid points. However, when we talk about security architecture, it's important to realize that the most important factor is understanding the business objectives, understanding business goals, understanding how we can enable the business. So, how we can listen very carefully to the business people and understand from them what they need, how can we help them, how we can enable, for example, them to build real-time operations and to move to near to real-time way of working. How to support them by building real-time operation centers, like, for example, real-time operation center for rotating machinery, for monitoring turbines, real-time operation centers for monitoring, for example, drilling operations. And we are in need today to think very carefully about how we enable those people in the plant to interconnect with those in the business and get real-time data that enable people even in the business to analyze this data and to understand how they can improve the operation through the analysis of this data. Building collaborative work environments is very important. For example, when we talk about those real-time operation centers, they are part of a collaborative work environment where you can extract or pull the data from the plant area and enable analytics in the business area, and enable those partners that work with you from the different third party to access the analytics and the information in your business or at the cloud, because those days there is a lot of tendency to move even the data lake to the cloud and to do analytics on the cloud, and all of these things are valid options. Now, why do we do all of this? Because we think about productivity and how we increase productivity. And we need to make sure that our secure architecture addresses this. How is our secure architecture with regards to operations? Does it enable them to improve operations, or is it an obstacle for them to improve operation and to increase productivity? Can we actually lower the operational costs, for example, through creating real-time operation centers that reduce the need for people to travel to sites and to travel, for example, especially to offshore areas where you need to have choppers or helicopters to move people from one place to another, and the operational cost of this is always high. And at the end, we need to think about how to reduce the risks to health and to reduce the risks to the critical infrastructure itself by having a secure architecture design that enable all of those requirements. Now, I'll move to the next part, and once we understand the business goals and once we understand the business objectives, then we need at the beginning, and this is very important for security architects. It's not only for business people to develop the business view. this is not only to be just a page that you receive from the business people that tell you this is what we need. No, we need to sit with business people, we need to sit with operation people, we need to sit with plant people, we need to interact with them, we need to understand how we enable them, and based on all of this we create what we call a business view. This business view that normally reflects how you can improve things, and then we start to discuss how we can secure this infrastructure. So the first point that you need to think about is how can I enable those business people? And then the second point, how can I secure the architecture and infrastructure and this environment that would enable the business needs? Okay. Now, taking a shortcut where you jump directly to start to understand how I build a security architecture without understanding the business view is a catastrophic, actually, situation that might affect not only the business, but it will disable them from gaining lots of opportunities like digital transformation and enabling analytics and improving lots of business operations through first understanding the security the business view before understanding how we can secure this environment. So we need to remember that we need to address all business requirements. We need to build confidence with business people, and one of the teams that can really build good confidence with the business people that show them how cybersecurity enables business is the security architects, because they are the ones who will be interacting with business people to understand what's their requirements, how can we enable your business, and how we can build the security architecture that enables this business. Now, after we understand the business view, we start to focus at the services that we are going to and actually, before even understanding services, we start to list all those technology levers that the business needs. Like, do we need digital transformation? Do you need big data and data analytics? Is it going to help us in enabling improving even operations and improving maintenance and enhancing how we manage those plants? Do we need digital twins? And are we, for example, good if we move to smart manufacturing? Do we need to use IoT devices? Do we need to have automated robots? And do we need to have augmented reality, and to understand all of those technologies that enable the business to improve the way that they operate and manage those plants? All of these are the options that security architects should investigate, that they should look at with the business people to make sure that they enable them and they build a secure architecture for them that supports all of this. Now, moving further, as I was talking early, after we understand what are the technology levers, then we start to think about the services that you need. Do you need data from the historians, or is there a real-time data that we need that is not in the historians, and we need to bring it to the business for more analytics? Do we need to integrate with ERP? For example, for those who have manufacturing execution systems, and they integrate them with ERP, and you will see that this enables them to improve manufacturing processes and enhance it a lot. So All of those integration requirements are important to highlight. Do we need to provide remote access for vendors? And how can I provide remote access in a secure way? Mostly, the most critical part in enabling communication between the plant floor and business floor is enabling remote access, because it should be done right. It should be done right from the first instance. Otherwise, some people might say that, don't worry, but I'm using VPN with multi-factor authentication. There, even VPN with multi-factor authentication can be bypassed, and there are situations that and vulnerabilities that appear in those systems that enable attackers even to bypass your systems, even if you are using multi-factor authentication and VPN as well. So full analysis of the environment should be considered, and you should consider as well that this multi-factor authentication and VPN can be bypassed. Then what's the next step to protect the industrial environment? And here comes the security architecture and how to enable the business to have support from external parties, whether from vendors or from the company people who are working remotely in a secure way. Then you need to think about what are the other services that the business need, and you need to start to list all those services to make sure that your security architecture supports those services. Now, then we will start now with the kind of design principles that we need to talk about. And here we need to remember that we need always to apply zones and conduits to enable the segregation between IT and OT. And here comes the discussion of how do we segregate between the business and the plant floor in a secure way. And the discussion at the beginning should start by addressing how can I integrate the plant floor with the business floor, and what's what are the best options for us to integrate the business floor with or the plant floor with the business floor. Let me pause over here and ask if you have any question. If there's any question from attendees, Rinaldo, we can answer any. Rinaldo?
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. So do we have any questions from the attendees or anyone? Please, if you have any question, please put this question in the chat. I'm happy to answer this.
Yes, please. Any attendees, please feel free to share your questions here. I mean, Mr. Ayman would be happy to ask and ensure that we reach this question properly.
Okay. So we'll be glad to answer any question. Please feel free to ask any question, and I'm happy to pause and answer your questions. So till we get any question, let me next start by understanding how do we do the analytics. For example, today, if you have a plant floor that is isolated from business floor, the first thing that you think about is that how can I integrate the plant floor with the business floor? And to do this, you have options. For example, you might say that, what about using a single firewall? And here, when we think about single firewall, we need to ask ourselves, okay, if a vulnerability appears in the firewall, would that enable the attacker to bypass the firewall and, for example, even jump to the plant floor through that firewall? The reality is that yes, there is a possibility for this. The second question that comes to our mind is that what if the admins are in IT area and their accounts and management accounts have been also hacked? Would this enable the attacker to even manage those firewalls? Yes, this is another actually possibility that could happen. The second question that we need to ask ourselves is that if we use a single firewall, could there be mistakes that happen in configuring the firewalls? In reality, lots of the cyber attacks that happen could result from configuration mistakes. Security administrators are under pressure. There is need to do some work. They go into changing a rule, and that rule might turn the firewall from a firewall into a fire pass, actually. And in this situation, we need to think that if I use one firewall, okay, would this be more possible or not? Yes, it could be more possible. Okay. The third point that we could also discuss is what if the firewall management, for example, is opened from the IT side, and the attackers will be able to, for example, hack the IT side. Would this enable them to try to bypass the firewalls themselves? Yes, and especially if I have one firewall, it means that I put one layer of security between the plant area and the business area. So some companies might come and say that although we could have these issues, but my risk tolerance allows this, and I accept it. And honestly, this is something that security teams or business owners should think very carefully before accepting such a decision, because we need to implement defense in depth, especially for the integration between the plant floor with the business floor. And here when you ask what's the reason, okay, they might tell you that it's because of budget concerns. I don't have enough money, and I cannot implement more than one firewall. And here the question that is needed to be evaluated: if the plant has been hacked and your plant operations have been affected, how much do you lose every 1 hour? Does it substitute the cost of having, for example, 2 firewalls? Or do you have, for example, other concerns that you have? And you should list all those concerns whenever you start to do analysis and analytics into what's the decision that I should take when I want to improve the security at the plant floor. Now, the second option would be that we use 2 layers of firewall between the plant floor and the business floor. And here we start to do the analysis. And the analysis could start by saying, what about vulnerabilities? Now, if you use 2 firewalls, then the best approach is that you use it from 2 different vendors. So this is vendor 1A, and this is vendor 2. Okay. So the firewalls that are facing the business from vendor 1, and firewalls that are facing the plant are from vendor 2, for example. And the second thing is that this would be managed by team 1, and this would be managed by team 2. And what we mean by this is that you have the firewall that's facing IT managed is from X vendor, and it's managed by the IT security teams, while the firewall that is facing the plant floor, this is the plant, okay, and this is business. So you will notice that the firewall that is towards the plant is managed by the OT security team in the plant, and the management, the firewall management consoles are opened only from the plant area, while while they are not open from IT area, to make sure that this firewall cannot be managed by any person ahead. Okay, I can see some questions. Cybersecurity vulnerabilities and for oil and gas industry, why is it expensive, especially when you need to put up more than one firewall? Yes, exactly. Actually, it should not. No one should say that it is expensive, and cybersecurity, even having two firewalls, should not be a major issue. Could it be possible to have a situation where there are zero threat of cybersecurity on a plant? Never, never. Okay, we cannot we cannot reach to a situation that we say that we are fully secured. There is residual risk that is there, and for example, you could put the best security. However, one of your employees tries to charge a mobile that is infected in one of the industrial, like fire and gas or emergency shutdown system, and the infection goes from that mobile to the system. Or for example, a vendor comes with an infected machine, and here some people tell me, but we scanned that machine. Antivirus and scanning the machine by antivirus doesn't guarantee that the machine is fully secure, because there are lots of zero-day attacks that even the antivirus cannot discover, and this could enable a machine to come into the plant, and it could be infected, and after some time the machines in the plant will be infected through this machine. So zero threat is impossible, and actually we need to remember that security architecture should be designed on a threat analysis that tells you what are the threats that I need to consider when I design the security architecture, and how to reduce those threats. I'll try to answer the questions lightly, but if you like us to elaborate more, I'll be glad to elaborate more on the questions. What are the cost-effective ways to manage cybersecurity threat in a plan? Maybe you mean in a plant. There's no one answer to this, okay? Because when we talk about for example, now security architecture is one of the ways to reduce the risks and to manage threats. The other issues that you can bring all technologies to try to improve security. However, we need to think about processes. We need to think about people education. We need to think about people awareness. We need to think about how we manage the third parties, how how the even third party vendors, how our partners are taking security seriously, and how mature they are, because at the end they are part of the game, and having them with high cybersecurity maturity reduces the risks. I hope that I answered the questions. So I'll continue, but please feel free to put more questions, and happy to chat with you. So let me continue with the option of using two firewalls. As we said, that the best practice would be to use two firewalls from two different vendors, so that a vulnerability that could appear in one of the firewalls is difficult, like to be utilized in the other firewall. It's difficult to have like vulnerability in more than one firewall at the same time. However, could it happen? Maybe, yes. But in security, we say that that we need to improve security, but we cannot complicate it much more than to make it very, very much complicated to the extent that it affects the business. So can't this be managed by user management rules, such as disabling specific USB ports? Um, yeah, definitely we should not enable USB ports today in the plants, and they should be managed. Definitely, okay. However, in reality, you will find that that especially, for example, in oil and gas and utilities, and even in chemical and some manufacturing, we have very obsolete systems. I have been into plants that still use Windows NT, Windows 3.1, old systems. So you might find that you have old versions of operating systems that are not easily like you cannot easily manage boards. Now, what companies do is that they try to control the boards through, for example, registry, but still the user might be having admin. They can jump again and to the registry and change the entry in the registry, and again still use USB ports. However, all of this is very important. Try to reduce the risk as much as possible. Try to limit access to USB ports. Try to educate the users about how dangerous it is to connect a device to the USB port, even if the USB port is allowed. We need to educate people how to take permissions. Like there should be a single point of accountability in the plant who's taking care of cybersecurity, and how they should consult with those guys before, for example, connecting a USB port or a device to the USB port. All of these are measures to be taken. And by the way, you might say, what's the relation between this and security architecture? It's all interconnected, because after I build the zones, then we start to deploy security controls around each one of those zones from network perspective and from system perspective. So when you say that it's okay, I have this computer and this workstation, and I have people who are using it, so I need to protect the operating system. Then I need to protect applications. Then I need to protect the physical devices that could be connected to the computer. Then I need to connect it to protect it from network perspective. And this is how we work on building a secure architecture around not only the network. There is the impression or the understanding that security architecture is only related to network is not true, because security architecture should address how we secure applications, how we secure the environment, how we make sure that we secure the servers, how we secure the endpoints. All of those elements, how you build security zones around them, is part of security architecture. And so the increasing, let me read. Okay. The increasing dependence on technology and web-based communication has opened the door for cybersecurity threats, definitely, particularly in the oil and gas industry. What will you suggest is the best way someone can start a career in cybersecurity today? Not definitely. We need people to come to cybersecurity, and we encourage everyone. It's really an area that we encourage everyone to work in. Okay. Now, the increase of web-based applications, like for example, you could have a server in DMZ 3.5, and for those who are not familiar with this, I will explain it later. But for those who could be placing, for example, a web server at 3.5, we need to think carefully, okay, where do we place this web server? Shall I place it, for example, at the firewall that is facing the IT, or shall I place it at the firewall that is facing OT, this zone? And all of this will come with analytics, and we can put this on a discussion. However, with application security and using, for example, web access firewalls, WAF, and different controls to secure the web access is very important. Can you shed some light on the layers in security architecture? Definitely, I'm going to discuss this in more details and to talk about the different layers. Actually, we are still on less than half of the way. So yes, we will. I'll focus on this in details, and there are many slides that will cover this. Okay, so. Thank you for your questions. Continue to put more and more questions. Happy to answer all those questions. But I'll go back now to why two firewalls, for example, because number one, firewall vulnerabilities, the option of having the vulnerability same in two firewalls will be reduced, or actually the possibilities of having the vulnerabilities in two firewalls will be reduced. Then configuration mistakes will be reduced because we have the IT facing firewall managed by IT team and the OT facing firewall managed by the OT team. So it's difficult to have configuration mistake in two firewalls at the same time. Company risk tolerance should address, for example, the possibility of having two firewalls, and budget concerns should not be an obstacle for having two firewalls, because as you see, we have higher security posture when we have two different firewalls from two different vendors. And there are many other concerns that normally when we start to look at designing secure architecture, we start to do analysis based on the environment that we work on, and we start to meet with people, understand their integration requirements, how the integration happens, and what are the best approaches. Now, the third option is that someone might say that I need a diode firewall, okay? And the diode firewall, for those who are not familiar with diode firewalls, it's a kind of firewall that is based on light technology. So if this is the plant and this is the business, then you will be able to send traffic from plant to business without being able to send traffic on the other side, on the other direction. Why? Because there is no light transmitter from the business side to send the data to the plant side. Now, is this a very high secure situation? Yes, and in many plants, like in nuclear plants and in plants where there is no need for someone to access the plant floor from business floor, then having a diode firewall could be a good option. We know that even some companies use the sandwich approach, where they use firewall here, they use firewall here, and they use a diode in between. Okay, I don't want to discuss this situation. It is a kind of defense in depth approach. Okay, and this is needed for some requirements. Sometimes we know that there are entities that want to transmit data from plant to the business. Okay, let me change the color. Okay, they want to transmit data from plant to the business. However, the diode firewall does not support the protocol to transmit this data from plant to the business. So at that time, what they do is that they will turn the diode firewall into bypass. Okay, and then they will depend on the two firewalls that are here. They will transmit this data from plant to the business, and then after they finish, they again enable the diode firewall. Okay, for higher level of protection. All of those techniques are being used by companies depending on their risk tolerance, depending on their business needs, depending on their data data transfer needs. Okay. However, when we talk about transmitting data from business to plant, we need to be very careful over here, because if you have a diode firewall, it will not allow you. But if you have two firewalls and you enable this, yes, it will allow you. However, you need to remember that there could be risks of transferring data from business floor to the plant floor. So you should consider more rigid security actually controls that would reduce the chances of compromise because of transferring data from business to the plant floor. Now, what you could see is that there are companies that implement diode firewall, and then what they do, they have another diode firewall in the other direction. And even some diode firewalls started to come with two directional diode firewall, which means that I will be able to send data from plant to business, and I will be able to send data from business to the plant. Okay. However, what they do normally is that when you send data from plant to business, this should be disabled. Okay, like you shouldn't have this firewall enabled. While when you send data from business to plant, then this will be disabled, so that you do not allow two-way communication at the same time. And again, is there risk of this? Yes, there is risk. Okay, because at the end you are sending data from business to the plant, and here the best approach is that do not jump to send data from business to, for example, level 2. Okay, level 2 network, or level 1 network. Okay, or so you need to be careful about where you are sending this data. Normally, if this data is sent, it should be sent to 3.5 DMZ, that is at the firewall that is between the IT and OT, and not further than this in one step actually. So again, is the diode firewall an option? Yes. When we have a diode firewall, what about vulnerabilities? Those diode firewalls, yes, they would be having vulnerabilities. But most of them, they even come with manual like switch that you should switch on when you want to start transferring data between the IT and OT. Configuration mistakes could happen at any time. We need to be careful. Firewall management, we should be careful. However, because the technology itself does not have a light transmitter that goes from the business to the plant, still, okay, even like configuration mistakes and things like this, although they could be harmful, but because of the technology, still the technology itself could be the layer of defense over here. Risk tolerance, budget concerns, other concerns are all concerns that we always have when we talk about selecting diode firewalls. However, I would remind that whenever you are talking about selecting the diode firewall, please make sure that you do enough tests with your plant people, okay, to make sure that they can transfer the data that they need. And this should not be the first option for you. At the beginning, you need to start with understanding the business of you. You need to understand what's all of this communication that I need between the plant floor with the business floor, and then think about the security controls like firewall, two firewalls, diode firewall, all of these options, and make sure that those devices can still provide the business people with what they need. Okay, but if you find out that I have a diode firewall and that diode firewall is not enabling me to provide the business people with what they need and help support the business objectives and goals, then you need to think again before selecting this control. So are there other options? Yes, there are other options. Okay, but most of the companies today that we see, they use either single firewall, they use 2 layers of firewalls, they use diode firewall, or they use a combination of 2-layer firewall plus diode firewall. And maybe the option that that could be there is connecting the plant floor, okay, with the business floor. And I heard this question from one of the people who asked me that, what about OPC? Can I use OPC to connect the plant floor with the business floor? Honestly, no. Okay, that's not. OPC is not for connecting business with the plant. Okay, OPC is better for horizontal segregation, and I'll come to you about the difference between horizontal segregation and vertical segregation. Now, all of those that we talk about are vertical segregation between level 1, level 2, level 3, level 3.5, then business. Okay, all of this is called vertical segregation. So those are good for vertical segregation. But when we talk about OPC, it could be good for vertical segregation within the plant or horizontal segregation within the plant. And I will come to talk about this in more details. Let me pause now, and I noticed that there's a question.
I think there's a question for us.
Yeah, on firewall in level 1.5, is it recommended? Good question. Thank you for this question. Implementing firewalls at level 1.5, why do you want to implement it? And I will come to what's level 1.5, for example. So when we talk about field devices, they are in level 0. When we talk about controllers, they are in level 1. Okay. Now, the second layer is supervisory control. So here we are talking about segregation between the controllers with supervisory control. Now, I need to understand what's the justification to have this firewall. Why do you want to segregate between the PLCs, the controllers, with level 2, for example? Is there any reason? Do you have multiple vendors? If you have multiple vendors, then yes, we can talk about this. This is very good. Okay, and we can talk about segregating the vendors from each other using industrial firewalls. However, if I will say that I have the same vendor and I have the PLCs from the vendor, the same vendor, and then they are connected with supervisory control, then first we need to understand why do you want to do this? Because if you are if you need to focus at the beginning on the integration between the plant floor with the business floor, then we need to think about first of all having the security zone between level 3.5 and 4 and the business, and do all our efforts over there. Now, but to your question, what if I have onshore area and I have, for example, devices that can be accessed by people from the street, and there is wireless devices, and they are connected with the supervisory control? Is there here a necessity to, is this an option to have a level 1.5 firewall? This could be possible. Again, this could be possible, but I always tend to say that we need to analyze the situation before we say that I want to have a 1.5 or 2.5 firewall, okay, and to understand whether there is justification to place that firewall, because we need to think also about failure of those firewalls. We need to think about are those firewalls, for example, certified by the automation vendor or not? Am I going to affect the plant operation, and could this lead to a loss of view because of the presence of this firewall, or loss of control at some time where I could lose the control over the system because of introducing a firewall. All of those are actually important options to understand when you want to place a firewall somewhere over there. And by the way, I'll talk now on the next slides. 90 minutes are very difficult to cover this subject, but I know that people want like we don't have enough time to discuss, but I'm going to go deep into the different layers, and I'm going to explain them in more details, and I'm going to address most of those questions that you have. So I'll pause for a minute again. If you have any questions, please, and thank you, Vibol, as well. Any question? I'll pause for a few seconds. If you have any question, that would be great. Okay, so we will continue now the discussion. Okay, and I'll move to the next part, which is the horizontal segregation. Horizontal segregation is where do I, for example, segregate where do I need to segregate in systems within the plant from each other. For example, when we talk about let me move to okay. So when we talk about where is the pointer? Yeah. So when we talk about control systems and safety systems, okay, do we need to segregate between control systems and safety systems? And I use the word segregate, but I don't use separate. Okay, why? Because at the end, the safety system will feed to the control system, and emergency shutdown system could feed to the control system. So how can I segregate between them in a secure way? This is also very important. Why? Because we don't want a hack to the control to move to the safety, and we don't want to a kind of virus spread in the control to move to emergency shutdown systems. And how can we do this? It's through proper segregation between safety and control networks. Now, what's the best option? The best option is to use the hardwire kind of connection, because it is the most difficult to hack. However, what are the other options is, number one, to use industrial firewall. Now, the most common way normally is to use hardwire. The second could be using the OBC, okay, OBC between safety and control. However, we need to be really very careful, because sometimes when we ask people, how do you segregate the safety from control, they tell you we are using Modbus. Okay, you need to ask again, are you using Modbus or are you using Modbus over TCP/IP? And in many situations, the answer that we reach is that we are using Modbus over TCP/IP. Modbus over TCP/IP between safety and control is very dangerous, because at the end, when you say Modbus over TCP/IP, you are talking about a TCP/IP based protocol, actually communication. So we need to be careful about here, and we need to understand very well, okay, what's the protocol that is used. Now, OBC is good to segregate between the systems, okay, and maybe using use of gateways. The gateways, we need to understand what type of gateways if someone uses the gateway. And some people might say that that we use, for example, VLAN and switches segregation. That's not enough, and we can come to it. And sometimes people might tell me that it's okay, but I am not enabling inter-VLAN routing between the VLANs. That's fine, okay. However, you need to make sure that this is risk assessed and it is tested to make sure that still the switch cannot be hacked and the switch still the VLANs cannot be bypassed. Are there other options? Yes, there could be other options. Okay. But the most common ones are the use of industrial firewalls, use of OBC, use of hardwire, okay, and use of maybe VLAN segregation through switches. Now, what is the other reason for me to segregate between the systems horizontally, actually, okay? Third-party vendors. If I have more than one third-party vendor that are working in the plant, there are possibilities that that one of them brings a machine and this machine is infected, and then a virus spreads in that machine, and then what happens is that this infection goes to the other vendors. Here you will end up with very complicated political situation about who's responsible now about fixing the situation. Is it the vendor that brought the virus in, or everyone who's responsible about those systems? And I have lived a situation once where it took days, okay, and the plant the people had to shut down the plant because they could not agree legally on who's going to fix the situation. The virus came on one of the vendor systems. Then, because all of them are on a flat network, the virus moved from that system to all other systems, and so many systems got infected, and now they need to fix them. And the situation came to address who's going to pay for the cost, who's going to pay for my engineers to move to the plant, and who's going to even be responsible about the operation losses because of this and production losses because of this. So I'm sorry that I'll have to a bit now rush because I want to reach to the areas that you want to discuss, but at the same time, we need to address segregation between the industrial networks internally from each other in more details. We need to analyze this carefully and make sure that if a virus happens in one of the networks, it doesn't move to the other networks easily. Okay, so so all of this is important to consider when we talk about deploying firewalls in level 1.5 or level 2.5 and segregation between the industrial networks from each other. I'll pause for a minute to have a little water. Thank you. And by the way, if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer in between. The last the discussion that could come here for the segregation and the importance to consider when we are building secure architecture is remote access needs. And do we need to provide remote access, and where shall we provide remote access? And do we need to use different techniques to provide remote access? And I'll come about this in the explanation further. I hope that I will reach to this area. But before that, have you installed OPC aware firewall, and where is it recommended? I'm not going to mention vendors. There are so many OPC vendors. Okay, when you ask them what is this, they tell you that this is a firewall, especially the OPC secure firewall. Okay, and let me avoid mentioning names of vendors. Okay, but there are vendors in the market that tell you that I provide you with a secure OPC. Look for those vendors, understand what they mean by secure OPC, review the firewall, make sure that the security features are actually really like fulfill a firewall, okay, characteristics. So are there? Yes. Are there many? Yes, also. Okay. However, you need to analyze it, and you need to be sure that the OPC secure firewall has firewall functionalities within it. And the second thing is that we need to be sure that this device can be secured by itself, that no one can hack this device easily, and it has passed security tests to make to reduce the chances of hacking the device itself. So I hope that I answered the question. What is we have 15 minutes, and I have not covered more than 15% actually of the discussion. I know that secure architecture actually needs workshops for days for analyzing each and every service. But I'll try my best to touch on what I can cover within the next. I have 15 minutes, and I promise to provide those 15 minutes for questions and answers. Shall I? I will accept two or three to tell me. Shall I continue, or shall I take questions?
I think we have one more question, Mr. Ayman. I mean, I prefer you, I think, move to the question area, because I think
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So Mr. Jawahar again has asked us, have you installed OPC aware firewalls, and where is it recommended?
So OPC firewalls, as I answered this, can be installed within the industrial network itself, to segregate between the industrial vendors from each other, to segregate between a vendor protocol from other vendor protocol. Okay, so it is more to segregate between the industrial systems from each other, industrial vendors from each other. Okay, but not to segregate business plant floor with the business floor. Okay, there you need specialized firewalls that are level 7, layer 7 firewalls that are next kind of generation firewalls, and you can manage them very well to understand even what type of traffic that passes through them, and how they support industrial firewall, the industrial protocols, because the vendors are different from each other. Some of them support industrial firewalls more than others, so you need to think about all of this. But OPC is used within the plant. Okay, it's used within the plant, and there is lots of. I mean, you will find in every plant OPC. However, is it OPC or OPC secure? And good question here is that, is it OPC UA or OPC DA? If it's DA, 100% it's not secure. Okay, why? Because DA uses random ports, while UA doesn't use the random ports. So when you implement DA, if you have OPC DA, definitely it's not the secure firewall. Is it OPC UA? Again, even if it's OPC UA, it doesn't mean that it's 100% firewall. You need to check whether it's OPC UA secure, and it has the security features, and it has implemented the security features that can make this be called a firewall. Now, let me go to the quickly to the other part if there's no questions. So with regards to VPN, you need to understand that if you want to give remote access, try to push the plant data to an area at the business, give remote access to the business area. Okay. If I use two-factor authentication, is it enough? You must use two-factor authentication with the VPN, otherwise it will not be that much secure. You must use jump hosts. And if I talk about jump hosts, it's an art of where do you deploy the jump host? How do I configure the jump host? How I can harden the jump host? All of these are very important. Has cybersecurity threat increased after COVID-19? Definitely, yes. You don't imagine now the need for plants to provide remote access. Many, like they are not able to have the person come to the plant, and they want support. And many companies could say that, no, I want the support right now, but we don't have secure infrastructure to support this remote access. I don't want the plant to shut down because of this. Okay, and decisions could be taken in this way, and this might end up with having infections and even compromise to the plant itself. So please make sure that if you want to give, that you should be prepared today to give remote access in a secure way. Try to push all the data or to give the remote access through multiple jumps of jump hosts, actually. Whenever you are providing access to the plant floor, if you are giving the access to 3.5 DMZ, then one jump host could be okay. If you are going to give access internally to the industrial network, then you need to think about having more jump hosts, and you might need also to have a firewall, industrial firewall, where you place the machine that needs to be accessed remotely behind the firewall, so that you do not allow the one who accesses this machine to have further movement to the industrial network rather than that machine. This needs a lot of configuration. This needs work, okay? But things should be done right. We should do it right from the first day. Can we get the presentation slides I can share with my colleagues who could not attend? Yes, I will share those slides with you. Don't worry. Okay, yes, definitely. Can you please throw some light on one-time virtual machine at jump host? Are we mentioning virtual session? Yes, the jump host, using virtual machine for jump host is a good option. And every time you give access, okay, you kill that machine and you create one more machine for every access. However, it would be good to keep records of this machine, like to keep images of all those machines that you provided, because you might find that sometime that there is infection inside the plant, and you might need to do an analysis into how did the attack go, and could it have happened through the remote access that I provided? But having virtual machine for jump host is an option. Some companies, they even go for further than this, where they run the jump host on a CD kind drive that is only read only, so that you can run the applications that you want to run without having the capability to change anything. There are different options. There are different situations. What is important is to evaluate it from threat perspective, and to understand what are the risks within each design, and make sure that you implement the right controls to reduce those risks. I was going to discuss more slides. Even the example itself, it will take at least 1 hour to discuss. I have one example about how you deploy security architecture for utilities, and how you need to understand how to segregate between power generation from transmission, from distribution, from the grid, and how I segregate those machines from those environments from each other. And then I need to understand who are the players and how they are interconnected with each other. And I'm sorry that I'll pass quickly over this example, but normally I take an hour to discuss this example in lots of details, okay? Because at the end you will find that there's communication between transmission and generation, between transmission and, for example, and distribution. And you need to understand what are the links between each entity with the other entity. Normally, like in workshop, we can even take other examples like oil and gas, and put upstream and midstream and downstream, and start to create the links between them, and the communication between them, and the communication between within each one of those actually sectors. Now, what's very important to understand is that after you start to draw the map between what's the communication between one sector and one group and another, then you need to list the systems that are in every area. Like those are the systems in this distribution operation. Those are the systems in transmission operation. Those are the systems that are in RTO and ISO operations, okay? And you put all of those systems, when you want to build secure architecture for special utilities, you'll have to have a clear understanding from the beginning about what are the systems in each area and how they communicate within, okay? And how do they communicate with each other, okay? Now, after this, and I will try to conclude, is that you start to list the systems, you number those systems so that you start to understand how I can build communicate, like to understand that the traffic map between all of those before I start to talk about cybersecurity. And then you start to say that this is the data flow and traffic map that happens between the different systems with each other. And this is the beginning of the story. This is not the end. And from here starts cybersecurity architecture that now needs hours to discuss. But I try to highlight how secure architecture is not only about just understanding security from only, but it should be important to understand that cybersecurity and architecture should start from understanding the business view. We should understand what's the business needs, how we can enable them, how our secure architecture can enable them as well. I'll move to the questions quickly. In post-COVID world where physical access is restricted, what are the safe ways to give remote access with the most minimal risk? I'll place my email right now here. Okay, it's Ayman_ALISA at. Okay, so this is my email. Okay, please send me question. I'll be happy to add. Answering this question, what are the remote access options? Number one, for each environment, okay, there is different options. Like when we talk about oil and gas, we start by understanding the environment. And after that, you understand the business requirements, okay? Then after that, you start to understand, okay, how can I do it? Shall I give them remote access? Let me now give you a hint, okay? And please remember this hint, okay? Think about rather than I give remote access, why don't I create a real-time operation center and push the data to the business and give remote access to that area? In this way, I'm providing you remote support without giving you any access to the plant. This is the way of thinking that we are trying now to push people to, creating more like collaborative working environment, real-time operation centers that are outside the plant floor, where you push the information to that floor and enable the people to understand. For example, if you have real-time operation center for rotating machinery, that will enable you to provide the remote access to this center rather than to the plant. But given that I have 2 minutes only, this is my email. Please feel free to send me questions if you have any, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. As I'll be a bit slow in responding to emails, but I hope that I'll answer as fast as possible. But the last thing is that remember that cybersecurity architect is a person that understands business, is a person that should understand business goals and requirements, and a business enabler besides to being cybersecurity enabler. And this is what we would like to see within the security architects. And I hope that you enjoyed this session. I'm sorry for the short time. I know that security architecture is a subject that sometimes that needs workshops for days to cover based on each and environment. But I'm sorry that we have only those 90 minutes to be with you. I hope that you enjoyed the session, and please don't hesitate to send me any question to my email.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayman, for taking this session up, and it was quite engaging. I mean, in fact, we received a lot of responses from the attendees as well. It was quite exciting as well. So yes, as Mr. Ayman said, I mean, the email is there. Any questions, any queries that you'd like to engage with him after the event, please do feel free to reach him on the email. And I think, I mean, this session was really engaging and exciting as well. So we will go for the lunch break now, and we'll resume our session, which is going to be a panel discussion on cybersecurity. And I'm putting the link in the chat box here. So you guys can join that session there. And also there will be a post on our LinkedIn pages. You could go there and register yourself and join the session. And I encourage everyone to join this session, because we have people from KOC, we have PDO, we have Aramco joining here as well. So we would appreciate to join the session, and it would be an exciting session. We have EY who's facilitating this session. So it could be quite engaging as well. So please join all of us. And once again, Mr. Ayman, thank you so much for joining us, taking time out and having the crowd engage with your session. We look forward to working with you as well. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. And it was a pleasure being with you today.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.